Nowadays, there are a ton of collectibles out there, but without a doubt, one of my personal favorites is none other than the company Youtooz. For over 3 years now, they've made an abundance of high-quality figurines based off of YouTubers, memes, parks and recreation, etc. And while the company has been in its fair share of drama, shady dealings, and controversy, I still find myself hyped for a lot of their new products. And considering I've teased this video's existence over 8 months ago, I think it's about time I make my own hypothetical line of their figures, but more specifically, Sonic YouTubers, just like what I did with Makeshift. But before we get into that, there's just a few things I want to mention. Firstly, I've made a second channel where basically I'm just going to be posting a bunch of random shit posts and things that don't really belong on this channel, so be sure to check that out after this one. It's going to be epic. Second, did you know that there's an 85% chance you're not subscribed to the channel? Subscribing helps out a ton, it's free, it's easy to do, and that's not a suggestion, that's an order. And also, before we start, I want to point out that I'm not Picasso, as always. I don't expect any super amazing art, I just did the best I could. Oh yeah, and one more thing. Youtooz, if you steal my concept, so help me God, I will fucking end you. So without any further ado, let's head right into it, starting with the man himself, Ricardo. Now for him, I posed him in a pretty neutral pose, basically just standing with his arms crossed, and I put a little Sonic figure in his hand, which let's just say that's Jazzwares or something, I don't know. And speaking of, just like the Makeshift video, I kinda just threw away copyright on these concepts, since for one, I can, and for two, Youtooz has never really been an average copyright enjoyer. I mean, hell, they literally made this Connor Eats Pants figure, which literally has a chow on it, he's wearing a Sonic costume, and it name drops Sonic in the description. But anyway, he'd be wearing his classic Thrasher shirt, and just some simple jeans. His beard and mouth would be printed on, and I gave him the smile they've used on other figures before, plus one raised eyebrow. Next up, you can't have Ricardo without the man himself, LS Mark. I mean, he isn't technically a Sonic YouTuber, but you know what, he also technically is, so he gets a figure. One thing that I love Youtooz for doing is making more out there poses, and not just every figure being some pop figure looking MF. So instead of him just standing here, I made him in a less static quo design, with him sitting in his chair and slouching back, based off this specific one of his talk sprites, as well as him being extremely tired to show his personality when he does stuff like reviewing every Simpsons episode. I really like how this one came out, and I'm surprised we actually haven't gotten a figure of him yet. And moving on, you can't have those two without our man, Dumbsville. This guy would have a more blocky look to him, being made out of separate pieces to resemble being a Lego boy. As for the design, I again based it off of a talk sprite, being this one specifically where he's just absolutely delighted. With his mouth open, the anime looking tooth, and his coffee which is sculpted to be flying out of the mug. His hands would be in the blocky Lego style as well as his feet. And considering I absolutely called the Makeshift plush, it's only safe to assume there's a 1,000,000% chance of us getting him. But speaking of those guys, one of the big exclusions last time that I totally could have done was a Sonic show. This guy would be in a garbage can as raccoons do, but as you can see, the can's full of Sonic trash, like a ring that wound up on his ear, a Sonic ice cream bar wrapper dangling off the side of the can, and a Sonic newspaper leaning off the side of the bin. And cause it'd be fun, I put a sticker of his logo there too. As for the raccoon himself, he's basically just a generic ass cartoon raccoon with the trademark eyebrows we all know and love, and he'd be leaning on his paw. And I know they made the Raccoonibus figure. I know it's kind of the same thing, but I had the idea of the trash can filled with Sonic stuff before of even thinking of that, and I didn't steal it. Yeah. Next up's the first idea I had for this video and one of the reasons I'm making it, Emmy Jones. As you can tell, I based her design off the iconic pic of her at the Sega HQ posing in front of the iconic Sonic statue. She'd obviously be wearing the getup she wore in the pic, including the pineapple backpack, and she had the same grin as Ricardo. As for the Sonic, there really isn't too much to say, he's just kinda Sonic, though we'd of course have the iconic Youtooz eyes, colored green and only being his pupils, since they tend to do that a lot with more cartoony designs, and finally they'd both be standing on the same base the statue was on. Chances are this one will probably be like a $40 one instead of the traditional $30. Moving on to another really popular one, our Lord Cybershell. For him, I had a cool idea of importing his title of Sonic Lore Master and him teaching Sonic lore. So he's been given a sash to prove his title, and I put a book in his hand to read as he teaches. He's also been given the pupil eye treatment just like Sonic. This is going to be the case for all Sonic themed characters, and I also gave him more droopy curls to more distinguish him from Sonic. This guy's for sure one of my favorites. After him, of course, the only other person who could bitch more about Sonic would have to be Sammy Classic Sonic Fan. For his beauty, I based it off one of his most iconic videos, Stop Hating on Sonic. And just like that video, he's screaming his head off, with the same mouth as the Chitronic figure as a nice little reference. I gave him a rounder shaped head to be more childlike, and he'd be pointing at the camera while behind a blue table with the masterful set piece. Jazzwares classic Sonic on the left, handless modern Sonic next to modern Tails, who would be the same height as Sonic since IRL they're like that, and Tails would have the much darker fur the Jazzwares figure has, as well as a sandworm next to him, again with the eyes, and of course he got Generations in a purple Kinect case. For this one I was inspired by the Hot Ones Youtooz and the table he has there. After him we get to Badnik Mechanic. This one, as you can probably guess, is inspired by the Sonic statue in the Japanese mountains, which considering he had a pretty big hand in spraying the word on that on, I decided to base him off that and give him the same pose, as well as him being on the iconic snowboard. Though considering the proportions, he isn't actually holding onto the snowboard, but who really cares? Aside from that, I took away the logo I gave him on the Makeshift plush since they don't really do that with Youtooz, but he still retains the blue glasses and the same clothes as that one. After that, we get to one I like a lot, being Radical Soda, aka his avatar Poppy. For her, I based her off this art using the thumbnail for his video about Sonic's friends, and she'd have a happy looking face, some slight blushing on her cheeks, and as you can see, her pose would require a stand. It would be the same stand they used many times, with the super clean Youtooz logo protruding out. I had to pay $1 to his Patreon to get this damn random reference art. Y'all better like and subscribe, god damn it. Now we get to a nice simple one. Sam procrastinates. For him, he'd be pretty similar to the makeshift plush, having the same polka dot shirt plus a nice grin. And again, I gave him the controller using his profile pic in his raised hand. Other than that, it's not really much to say about him. Damn it, I made the completionist logo. Another decently simple one is our man, some call me Johnny. He'd be in a pretty standard pose, with one arm to his side and him holding his mug, which again would have his logo printed on. He'd have his baseball cap, the smirk, and some tilted eyebrows to go with. He's pretty cool, I think, but looking back, I totally could have given him like Samus's gun or something. Then we get to one of my absolute favorites, being Courtney Snt. Last time we did Courtney's main design, which didn't really have anything to do with Sonic really, but this time I did the legend herself, Snt, being based off her most recent design that's been used in her live streams. For the pose, it'd be based off of Tails' running animations from the Genesis games, and the Tails himself were inspired by the Kid Robot mystery figure of Tails flying, being translucent to simulate being stopped mid-flight. She'd have the same pupils as the others, but pink, and she'd get a base, this time with a clear rod going up to support her. Also, something they did recently was make this Avatar figure, which is flocked, which means, hey, maybe one of these could be, whether it be Snt or the Sonic Show, or any other furry for that matter. Afterward, another high-flying one, Sonic Toast. For him, I based the pose off the key art from Sonic Mania, with his noodle limbs and Sonic shoes, and he'd have the pupil treatment just like the other eyes. I don't know why, I just really like how this one came out. I don't even watch him that much anymore, I just really like this one. Next is another new one, being Channel Pup. Based off his original design as opposed to his real-life looking boy. I based his pose off the talk spray he's used in his videos for a while now. As for his getup, it's basically just his standard, but I was kind of confused what to do with him color-wise, since I've seen people draw him in different ways, so I just did on black pants, cause just sure. Then there's of course Chow Mix, who as you can tell is similar to last time. While the plush was simply side strangling Yacker, this one's going all out. He'd have both hands firmly gripped on Yacker's fat neck and wouldn't be letting him breathe. And Yacker would have a Youtooz eye. But as for Chow Mix himself, I gave him his tattoo of course, his anime look, his baggy wrinkly pants, and his unique looking mouth and hair in the DBZ art style. After him we get to Game Apologist. For him I based his design after his thumbnail for the Knuckles Chaotix review, which has Knuckles dragging Nick with the ring tether. Knuckles would be pretty simple but with the eyes and a grin, which would have sharp teeth to show his anger. And Nick would just be sitting there on his ass with the superior brown pants as opposed to the black ones he had in the thumbnail. He'd have a big old frown on his face, and the tether would be made out of clear yellow plastic. Also, this one we use one of the long boxes they use sometimes as opposed to the standard ones. Then we got on to Sonic stuff, who as you can tell is based off his profile pic. He's in the same pose as Sonic 3D Flicky's Island box art, but he'd of course miss out on the winking pupil since he's got the Youtooz eye. Other than that, I had to use this model of him to see what his shoes looked like, since the original art is cut off and doesn't extend that far, and he'd have a base too since it'd be hard for him to stand on his own. After that we get to one of the bigger exclusions from the last video, Super Sonic Blake. For him I made his original character Sammy into a figure. He isn't all that complex since he's just kind of a modified Chef Pee-Pee puppet, but he'd have the Sonic fleece cap on, drawn here to resemble the GE Sonic Colors hat, an open mouth with a flat puppet tongue sticking out, his eyes once again which are just the pupils being changed into the Youtooz eyes, the Sonic Build-A-Bear shirt, which I was gonna draw out, but A, that'd take forever, and B, it'd probably look like shit, so I just recreated his shirt using PNGs. But one funny thing I did was making an arm sticking out of his bottom since he's a puppet. And finally, the most important one in this majesty of a video, the one and only Scrap the Rabbit Youtooz. You of course have a figure of Scrap with the orange pupil eyes, the stitches which would be slightly protruding out of his body, his arm in the air, and yeah, he's riding an Orca. The Orca would be jumping out of the water, which would be its base, with the wave being attached to a clear rod that connects the two. I really like how this one came out, and mark my words, one day there'll be the Scrap the Rabbit Orca merch the world deserves. So that's my pitch for a hypothetical Sonic Tuber Youtooz line. This is a really fun video to make, and I really hope we can get these to be a reality one day. Even if just one of these ends up being real, I mean, I consider it a win. We did it one time, we can do it again. I mean, hey, if anyone from Youtooz is watching, hit me up, we can work something out for these concepts. Well, at least for whichever ones can be done legally. But anyway, I just wanted to thank you guys for the support the channel's been getting as of late. The last video became my highest viewed one ever, and we just broke 3K and are on our way to 4. I couldn't do it without you guys, so thanks a lot for the support. It really does mean a lot. As I said, my main goal of 2022 is to reach 10K, so smash that subscribe button. That's an order, soldier. Anyways, I think I gotta go scream the Sonic 2 script because I said I would, so later.